I'm back outside today, as you can see. I hope y'all can't hear that loud ice cream truck over there. Plato's allegory of the cave was created by the philosopher Plato, of course, obviously, in his work The Republic, which is The Republic is like a very popular philosophy book. I never read it personally, but I do eventually want to read it. But yeah, just for some context behind this allegory, because this is like one of his most popular works. When I'm explaining this allegory, I'll make sure to have the example photo up on the screen because then it'll be easier to understand because me explaining it might not make as much sense as if y'all actually seen the photo while I'm explaining it. Imagine prisoners chained inside a deep, dark underground cave since they could ever remember, unable to move or turn their heads. They are forced to stare at a flat stone wall in front of them. Behind them burns a bright fire, and between the fire and the prisoners is a raised walkway where people walk holding up various statues, puppets, and shapes. The fire casts the shadows of these objects onto the cave wall. Because these shadows are all the prisoners have ever seen, they believe shadows are the absolute truth and reality. So, as the photo on the screen, you see the that all they can see is what's in front of them, which is the shadows of the objects behind them. And remember that they're chained, so they can't look anywhere else except for that wall. Now, my interpretation of this is that a lot of us are the prisoner, comfortable with what we know, not wanting to learn more about our reality. Also, we are controlled by what we are shown, and we don't have control over it until we decide to resist, which is the second part of the allegory. When one of the prisoners break out and leave the cave, the sun causes pain and confusion, but eventually you realize the real world around you and you break out from the lie that you were brought up in. The prisoner goes back to cave to save the others, but realizes that the prisoners don't want to see the truth, and they even get violent, grasping onto the reality that they've ever known, which is the cave wall. That is their reality. That's all they know. That's what they've been taught. That's what they grew up with. When I first started getting into philosophy, this was one of the first things I had read about, and it's been, an allegory that seems super interesting to me, and that, kind of stuck with me ever since. Now, I am a beginner to philosophy, and honestly, how could you not be a beginner to philosophy? Because there's so much to learn about the world, and there's so much to think about, so you can't really be a professional at understanding the world around us. You can't really be like I feel like you can't really be an expert at it because there's so much in the world that being an expert at the world and understanding it isn't really possible because there's so much. Like it'd be pretty much impossible in a lifetime for you to be a expert at knowing everything in the world. Not to mention that philosophy is thinking. It's not actual factual. You get what I'm saying? Like it's more so, understanding the world, not, for sure knowing. Because at the end of the day, reality is whatever you make it at the end of the day. So if you if you understand the world a certain way, then that's not how everyone else is going to understand it, which is why you can't really be an expert at philosophy. But that's why we are in the reality of Plato's cave. Now, most of us is only exposed to information that is easily accessible and don't try to think or look deeper into it. People don't try to build their own form of understanding about the world, but they grasp onto whatever they were brought up with or whatever they know. They don't ever try to explore other options. Like um like I made a video about how ignorance provides comfortability. I think that might have been either my last video or the video before that. But this kind of goes hand in hand because, it's like the prisoners that, the other prisoner, he tried to, help those prisoners escape, but they didn't want it. Sometimes people, you can bring water to a horse, but you can't make it drink it. You know what I'm saying? So when you can bring the truth to somebody or your understanding of the world to somebody, but they can't always accept it. They might not always accept it. They might have a different vision of the world than you have it. Especially with, so many religions and so many different types of just understandings of reality. Once again, like I said earlier, the world is what you make it. But at the end of the day, we have to step into the unknown and face reality to make sure that we can secure a better future for humanity. It's easier to believe the world is fine and to not wake up and protest for the world to be better and to accept the terms. Like like how I said earlier about how ignorance provides comfortability. It's easier to be ignorant to things like the war that's happening in Gaza. It's easier to be ignorant about it. It's easier to know that it's easier to not think about the millions of children being killed every single day. It's easier to think about or it's easier not to think about it because it's a sad reality. Much people don't want to face the truth and speak out about it, which is why we still have these problems till today because not enough people think about it on a daily basis. But if you try to achieve a higher level of understanding or a higher level of thinking and try to fight for better, then you'll eventually, find yourself in a more happier place. The world is better, you know, but once again, that's if, everybody, can fight together for a better change and not, fight amongst ourselves like most of us do. And that gets into my next point that a lot of people get violent fighting for the reality that they know because facing a new one can be scary and even life changing. Like, not many people are ready to accept, those terms. God dang, I'm being bit up by mosquitoes. But like I was saying, it's not, many people are not ready to accept the reality that is brought to them because it can be very scary. It's not easy hearing about the children in Gaza or even, in the US, even seeing like a homeless person. It's not easy to see that, but it's needed for the realization that we that a lot of us are, a lot of us are blessed to have what we have and we should be grateful for it and we should try to help out and try to provide for other people as much as we can. So make sure to always keep educating yourself further than just what is shown in front of you. Always try to build your own understanding about reality and always try to do the right thing because it will provide a better future for humanity.